and welcome to Tracy Mooney Reads. I am back again with another book review. Well, actually, since it's Friday, happy Friday, by the way, I'm going to do a twofer for you today. I'm actually going to be talking about two books. They're by the same author, but I thought it was interesting because my first introduction to this particular author, it was a romance story, right? It was like a second chance romance. And then I read another book of hers kind of in between. It was just okay. But so many people were talking about her latest book that I picked it up. And it's like in the mystery suspense genre. And when I did like kind of deep dive, she's like kind of, been doing a lot of different things. And as an author, I'm very inspired by that because, just like I don't like to pigeonhole myself with books, like I like to read different genres. I've been like wanting to dabble in different genres and not get tied down to just one thing. And I feel like with the two books that I'm going to talk about today, I feel like she did a really good job in both of them with them being such, wildly different stories, right? The author's name is Shanora Williams. And the first book I ever read by her, it was called Beautiful Broken Love. And in that particular story, it was a second chance story, right? And the woman in the story, the main female character, her name is Davina. And she was married before and her husband passed away. And so it was, like I said, more of a second chance romance type story. She was really in love with her husband. So she felt, and I've heard this before where you have some people that they were so in love with their spouses that was like the love of their life. And I think Betty White may have mentioned this, why she never got married, God rest her soul, but why she never got married again. Some people feel like they're never going to find that kind of love again, or they feel like even though that person is dead, they're still married to them and that's still their person and they're not going to ever replace them. And I think that at the beginning kind of the story, and even after she met the main character, Deke, she was still kind of feeling that way, Davina was. She obviously was attracted to him and she liked him, but she still like had this loyalty to her husband, even though he had passed away. So Davina has this small business where she has like beauty products, right? And Deke is an athlete. And so they were working together on this campaign because he's used her products before. And that's how they initially meet. And then of course, like not only the whole thing where, I'm still grieving my husband. It's like, we're in business together. It's just, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not going there. That's what she was telling herself. But he was very persistent. And, he broke down her walls at one point. And it was just like, okay, well, maybe this will just be a fling type thing, right? No. Let me go back, take a step back. Also, keep in mind, her husband hadn't been dead quite a year. I mean, he had been sick a long time and, she had been like his caretaker and he was pretty frail, like for a long time before he passed away. But I think that was also playing a big part of her not really wanting to let go or move on. But like I said, Deke was persistent and she was like, let's do this, but it's going to be a fling, right? And I will say initially, I was, kind of like, I don't know if I like the two of them together, but their chemistry was definitely there. And, I warmed up to the idea of them actually being a couple, because of the way that the story was written and how he handled her heart and was, even though he pursued her, it wasn't like from the vein of, oh, your husband's dead, but I'm here. It wasn't like an arrogant thing. He's like, I understand, but you still deserve, to be loved and cared for as well, And I also appreciated the fact, and I think like once you've been in a relationship, especially a long-term relationship, like the next go around, you are like, maybe there was a lot of stuff you didn't feel like you could say or you didn't say in that relationship. I feel like people that go through like second romances or second marriages, like there's a different level of communication and honesty because what didn't serve you in that first relationship. And I really felt like the honesty and the open communication between the two of them. And there was one point where they thought they were just gonna, be friends, because she just seemed like she just wasn't really ready. And that didn't happen. They ended up going ahead and being ready, right? But even like the secondary characters, I think there may be a book with one of them, another book. I'm not sure about that. I felt like the support that they got from their group of friends and family was really, really amazing. I hated Deke's dad. I'm mad he even got page time. And that's all I'm going to say about that. A really good second chance romance story. It gives you all the feels, tugs at your heart. You're rooting for these characters. And there is a happily ever after, right? So even at the bottom of my notes I have on here, I said that I will definitely check out more books by this author. So when I said that, back when I read the book, I'm thinking we're going to go on a romance thing here. No. Fast forward to a few weeks ago when I finished her latest book, and I'm pretty sure this is her latest book. It's called Whispers of the Lake, again by Shanora Williams. This is a whole mystery suspense book that we're into now. Something totally different from what I had, thought I expected. But it's funny. Let me take a sidebar here. I read a book by her that, I wasn't a big fan of it. So it's not something that I wanted to talk about on the channel. But now that I'm thinking about it, it's very strange, because in that book, there was a heavy romantic element, but then also there was this mystery that happened. So I've seen her combine those two elements, and I don't know if that was an attempt to do a transition or what, but it worked, for this new book. So in Whispers in the Lake, there's this woman named Rose, who she has a best friend named Eve, and her and Eve, they got into it, about something pretty deep that, I wouldn't have talked to Eve's ass either for what she did, but Eve has gone like missing essentially. Her younger sister is like, she would not call me. Like, I know y'all are going through whatever, but I haven't heard from her either. So this could be real. So even though, Rose was like, I'm not really speaking to her anymore or whatever. She didn't want anything to be, to have happened to her like that. So she went over to her apartment. She's not there, then the sister, because they all grew up together, right? Like they had known each other since they were young kids. So she decided that, okay, I'm gonna help out here. I'm gonna help you find her. And she was, the whole time thinking that Eve probably was like gone somewhere being dramatic, or because Eve that was her character. She was very flighty, very promiscuous, very, she just, it was all stemmed from trauma that she'd had, as a young girl. But she just lived her life in a way that was very reckless. Let's just say that. Okay. So Rose initially was like, she's probably with some man or doing something that she shouldn't be doing or whatever. But then they found out that because she was like an influencer, Eve was, she hadn't posted. And you know how influencers are about posting. So then Rose kind of goes on this journey to find her missing former BFF. And she starts off there, and hence the title. It was a cabin, like in this off a lake somewhere in this community, this small, rural community or whatever, that she had rented, like an Airbnb situation. So Rose goes and she rents out the same cabin, and she sees evidence that her friend was definitely there, right? And then some weird like shit starts happening, and I can tell you the whole time I'm like, it was him. It was her. And no, the author did a very good job at keeping it twisty and, taking you in other directions and making you guess as to what in the heck could have happened to Eve. And we even got these journal entries. So it was mostly told from the point of view of Rose, like present day and her job and what she was going through with her husband. And we get these journal entries from Eve. And yeah, I just, it wasn't, I don't even know. I'm trying to think. There was a point where I was like feeling like some people were involved, and they kind of were, but not for the reason you would be thinking. I felt like I was really shocked when she revealed who the person was that, you know, maybe had done something or had something to do with Eve's disappearance. I really was kind of like, oh, well, wait a minute, what? You know, and it made you think, had I not been paying attention the whole time? And I love stories like that, that kind of sneak up on you and make you second guess your sleuthing ability, right? So I'm not going to tell you what happened to Eve, or if anything happened to her. You'll have to read the book. But it was very gripping, very engaging, and it's so, you know, it just speaks, I guess, to the talent of this particular author, because those two books don't seem like they were written by the same person. They really just don't. They were both very entertaining. They were both, you know, engrossing. Obviously two totally different stories, but she did her thing. She did her thing with both stories. So if you like romance, you got Beautiful Broken Love by Shanora Williams. If you like suspense and mystery, you got The Whispers of the Lake by Shanora Williams. Or you can do yourself a favor and read both books. If you have read either of those books or any other books by Shanora Williams that you really enjoyed, let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure that you like this video and go ahead right now and take the opportunity to subscribe to my channel if you have not. Thank you to everyone that has. Please share my videos with people you think may enjoy them. I'm trying to hit 2,000 subscribers before year end, and I need you guys to help me with that, okay? Pretty please. Thanks again, you guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will see you next week. Bye.